right. Welcome, everybody, to our Skill Up session today with Dr. Linda Collins. My name is Jenna Johnson, and I'm a graduate learning specialist. I just want to cover a couple of brief housekeeping items before I hand the session on over to our presenter. We are recording today's session, and the video will be posted to our center in the Skill Up page within 24 hours. If you have questions throughout the session, go ahead and type them into the Q&A forum located at the bottom of the Zoom window. The chat feature is also open, and I will be monitoring the chat. I will also be placing some messages in there with some links for you to use throughout the session. Scrolling subtitles are enabled. To turn these on, hover over the bottom of the Zoom window to see those controls, and then click on the CC option to show subtitles, and you can turn these off at any time. And with that, I'm going to turn it on over to Dr. Collins.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. And I'm looking forward to talking to you today about additional PowerPoint presentation information. We did a session several months ago, and there were a lot of questions about, could you add this, or could this be clarified? So this is kind of a follow-up today. What we're going to do is, this is mainly an action day. We're going to be doing a lot of hands-on stuff, so that's why you're not seeing it in full presentation mode. For those of you who want to enlarge your screen, if you want to play with PowerPoint yourself, or if you want to enlarge it in Zoom, you should be able to make that enlargement. If you're in PowerPoint, you look at the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and you can enlarge it as much as you would like. As Jenna said, we are going to have an opportunity for question and answer later on. You can put those questions and answers into the chat as we go along, or you can wait until we get to a break. There are two major parts of this presentation. The first is going from slide to slide, talking about information, showing a little bit of hands-on, and then at the very end, we're going to pull up the oral defense template that's a PowerPoint presentation. So I've had some questions about using that as well. So we'll kind of do that, and as we segue into that, we will take some questions at that point in time as well. Now, if you have a larger screen and you want to have this presentation up, and you also want to bring up your own PowerPoint at the same time, you can kind of look at what we're doing, and then you can also play around in PowerPoint at that point in time as well. Also, as Jenna has stated, this will be recorded, so if there's anything in here that you found helpful, you can go back later on and rerun the presentation as well. So, couple of things. I'm going to be doing a stop share and a share, a stop share and a share, and a stop share and a share, because the way that Zoom works, you can't just pop over to something else and have it follow you. And so that's why there might be like a second or two as we move from one thing to the other, but I will let you know when we're doing that. So having said that, yay, let's get going. I've been with National North Central University for about 17 years, and I'm in the School of Education, and I have the Department of Global Innovation, Social Emotional Learning, and Educational Technology. It's a new name for us. So anyway, we'll get going. So you can see here, it's kind of colorful. It looks almost like fall, this first slide. I did not go through and do a lot of different colorful things or use a lot of graphics today, because it is a hands-on exercise, and you'll just be able to see how we're going to work through this. So here's our activities. We're going to be using and customizing bulleted lists, creating, modifying, and sizing text boxes. We're going to insert a chart, look at transition, talk about transitions a little bit. This is a big one that I get from a lot of students, especially when they're doing the oral defense. How do you use hanging indentation in PowerPoint? Can't get it to work, works great in Word. And so we're going to do that today. We're going to talk a little bit about using tools on the view table, including slide sorter, because that's of interest to kind of move some things around. We're going to talk about inserting and modifying shapes, timing your presentation, I'm going to have a quick check best practices list for you there. And I've got a couple of embedded links and things that you can use at a later time. And then we're going to wrap that up with a hands-on how to use one of the oral dissertation templates. And you can see that that's already in the chat. You can select it. I'm going to be using the qualitative oral dissertation template, but you can choose the one for the school that you're in if you have it, and you can play around with it at that point in time too. We won't go real in depth, but just an opportunity to take a look at it. And again, as you have questions, let us know, and we'll try to address those questions as we go along. Thanks. Okay, so there's questions about why use bullets, or even questions about when to use bullets, and am I doing the right thing with using bullets? So when you use bullets, what I have here is a text box that I've already created that we're going to talk about a little bit later on too. But also using bullets are part of APA 7, and you can take a look in your APA 7 manual, and they'll talk about using bullets and when to use bullets, and making a decision as to should you use bullets or should you use numbering. So up here, if you can see this up at the top, this is where you can select bullets, and next to it is where you can select numbering. And so I'm going to start this by selecting bullets, and you probably have seen these bullets before, and you can do that by, again, selecting this up here, and it already sets you up for doing bullets, and it will continue to do those bullets until you stop to do something else. So let's say, for example, I'm done with this. I can go ahead and go back to bullets, and I can do some changes to it. If you can see, instead of just clicking on bullets, and I'll do that again, next to it is a down pointing arrow. If you click on that, it shows you a bunch of different bullets that you could use. So you can click on that, and it will start you off with another type of bullet. Sometimes you want to use these when you're trying to emphasize something. Certainly, if you're in your dissertation, you have limitations on using bullets and numbering. But if you're creating something else that you just want to stand out, or you have some things that you want to demonstrate, you can do that. So again, I'm going to go up here, and instead of selecting one of these, I'm going to select bullets and numbering. I'm going to see all of those, but I can also do other things here. If you can see here, it says you can size your bullets, you can color your bullets if you like, you can select a picture, or you can customize your bullets even further than that. So, for example, if we wanted to size our bullets, we could make it a lot larger, and we could make it a color. And to do that, you select this, and now every bullet that we have, no matter what we select, should be a little bit larger. It looks like this one did not get any larger, but it did turn a color. So as with anything with Word and Excel and PowerPoint, we always will go back and check it again if we need to do something different. Now you can see it has resized. So again, if we want to do one more thing with the bullets, and this is something kind of neat if you're giving it to students and so forth too, if you're going to give them an award or whatever, you can do a customized bullet. You can either select symbols from here, or you can do a picture. And so I have a picture here of an excellent kind of little award. I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to insert it. And you can see that it has changed. However, it's not as big as we want it to be. So I will go back in here again. And we notice that we are selected. We should be able to size this. Click on OK, and then you can see it gets larger. And you can see, and you can continue to enlarge this as much as you want, and you can make that as a bullet. Again, APA style information for using bulleted lists. I have a link here for you if you want to take a look at it at a later time. We can also go up here and highlight all of these. And instead of doing a bulleted list, we can do a numbered list. Of course, we would go down here and change this number 4 so it would all match. So it's very easy to move from the bulleted to the numbered. You would use numbers for sequencing. So if everything has to be in order, and bullets are random. So you can kind of do it either way. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about here is a text box. Most of the time when we're using PowerPoint, we're selecting a theme. We're going to have information come up. We're going to have text boxes already there. And that's really easy for us to just kind of click on them. Like I have a text box here and go, ta-da, I have a text box. You can add additional text boxes and you can modify those text boxes as well. So why would I use another text box? Let's say that, well, I've got this information here, but there's additional information that I want to share with people. Then what I can do is I can always insert another text box by going up to Insert on the top ruler bar and going over to where it says Text Box and clicking on it. Then I can draw a text box anywhere I want by holding down my left pointer key and dragging to the size that I want. Then you can start to type. But then you go, well, why? I mean, I already have a text box up here. Well, the reason why you might want to do that is because you may want to move these around. Maybe I want to put this up here and I can click at the top, drag it anywhere that I want. So you can kind of move things around. Another thing that you can do with a text box is see how much more information there is here. We have that text box is really big. If you go over to the middle and where we have the little bullet there, you can drag that in and make it smaller. And you can see how it can even do this, but we're going to keep it out here. And that way it's not only movable, but it also doesn't encroach on other things. So for example, if you had a picture here and you move this over the top of the picture because it was such a wide text box, then you would have problems. You could flip the image up if you wanted to, but this way it just makes it more manageable. So another thing that you can do while we are doing this, if you do want to split your screen, then you could do that, watch what we're doing for the presentation, and also have your own PowerPoint open, and you could be following along and doing this at the same time. We're going to do this solely without using this presentation when we get to the hands-on for the oral defense template. So again, I can size this here too. Move it around, change fonts, font colors, anything that I might want to do. Again, to do that, you have to go up to putting in your insert, moving over to text box, clicking text box, then coming down to draw that text box. And if you have any questions, please do post those in the chat session because we'll be taking a look at that. Okay, this next one, is really fun. Well, I like it because sometimes it's a decision between creating a table or a spreadsheet and just having that table or spreadsheet ready to go. So this is where I am going to go ahead and stop sharing. And I'm going to go in to Excel where I already have a table there. And then I'm going to come back again and I'm going to share that. And what I can do now, I can have all kinds of these wherever I want. I can even have pictures. I can have all kinds of things. And then all you need to do is highlight what you want. And then you can right click or you can go up and copy through going up here and doing a copy and paste, but I'm going to right click and I can copy. Now, what's really important about doing this is how it's going to look and how it's going to get to PowerPoint. Very easy. Again, we've copied it. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Then I'm going to go back and share my PowerPoint screen again. And I'm going to paste this in. If you're on a PC, you can right click to paste it on. If you would like to paste it by using the ribbon above, you can do that as well. I'm going to right click, and you can see that there are paste options. And a lot of times paste options don't mean a whole lot because we're just doing a copy and paste. But doing this, it does mean a lot because we want it to be verbatim, exactly the same as the table that we had created in Excel. So we don't want to use destination style because it's going to show us the style that's in PowerPoint. What we want to use is keep source formatting. And as you can see, this is formatted just like it looked in Excel. We haven't put in a bunch of colors or anything such as that, which we can, and we can transfer it over with color too, as long as you keep the formatting that was originally there. And once you're in here, you can size these too. So if you want to size these and it would look better to do that, you can certainly do that. If you decide that that was fun to do, but that's not the table I want, you can come up here and click, and you should be able to backspace and that will go away. And that's one thing that's really great with Microsoft, and you've probably all been working with this for a long time, but you can mess this up as much as you want, and you can usually go up and do an undo and it will take care of it. Or when you're doing pictures, images, or a chart, you can usually go up to click on that and just backspace and take it away.
Dr. Collins?
Yes.
We do have a question related to text boxes.
Yes, let's go back to text boxes. Yes.
Perfect. So the question is, if you create a text box, can you insert pictures into that box, or can you only type text?
Okay, that's really a great question, and it really kind of depends on what you're doing. So, for example, we have a text box here, and it kind of leads into something that we were talking about using the Excel table. So you can always put a picture in. And let's see if we can find a picture that, oh, there's that excellent picture. And so we can put that picture in. What you're seeing now is how that goes over the top. And you can certainly go in and form that around. You bring it to the front, you can put it, send it to the back, you can do all kinds of things with it. And I did all of that by right clicking my right mouse to be able to do that. Now I'm going to go back again to show you. So we put this in by going in to find a picture, and here it is, and now it's over the top of this. Sometimes you may want to send it to the back and it would look good as a background to put it in there, but it's not what you want because it's still not showing everything, right? So we'll send it to the back, and we have a lot of information here. So this is where it comes in, the discussion about why we shorten our text boxes, because we can shorten that text box a little bit and then click up here at the top, move it over, and then there's our picture. Or we could swap it on the other side to do the picture as well. So as far as inserting a picture in a text box, there's ways that you can join these two. So if you wanted to do a join with these, and then you can make sure that they always go together, you can certainly do that as well. But as far as putting a picture into a text box, I haven't found it to be really helpful. I mean, we can certainly expand that text box, move this over here in the text box, and it would be there, and it would work. So if you want it to travel, though, we'd have to link it in. If you have more questions about doing that and you really want to have a picture in a text box, you can contact me. At the end, we'll give my email address, and I'd be happy to help you with that if you want to do it that way. But generally, what you do is you join it. You can join a bunch of text boxes together too and move them all around. So I hope, does that answer at least part of your question?
Yep, looks like in the chat. Thank you so much for answering my question.
Thank you. Okay. So here we are, we're back here, and we've seen how this works. Are there any other questions before we move forward?
Not at this time.
Okay. So who doesn't love transitions? When I first learned how to do PowerPoint, and that was way back a long time ago, the first things that we loved to play with were fonts and transitions. And the first things that you learn about fonts and transitions are don't overdo it. Because what you want to do is you want to make it a smooth kind of move between slides. But when I first started doing it, I'm like, oh, I like that transition. Then I do another one on the next slide. Then I do another one on the next slide. And so the people that were watching the presentation, and I was probably doing it too, paying so much attention to what transition it was that it didn't make it for a smooth presentation. And some of the transitions can be a little crazy. Now, I'm going now over here to the ribbon from File, Home, Insert, Draw, Design, and Transitions. So if you have a presentation up that you want to play with, you can do that. So I'm in transitions now. We have none that you can use, and one of the more popular ones to use in real educational presentations, maybe professional presentations a lot of times, is the fade. And something to know about using transitions is you can do them a lot of different ways. You can make them go faster and slower, fly in, fly out, fly back, so many different things. What we're going to do first right now is just look at some of the transitions. So a lot of times people will use none. Sometimes people will use fade. And so what it does is it gives that little segue from one to the other. Again, they're all done here in transitions. We'll look at a few more. There's morphing in. There's some wild ones that we can look at. There's curtains that you could do. And then when you go on to the next one, then it will do that again. There's flash. There's origami, where you get to see you probably have looked at all of these and stuff. And then we'll look at a couple more. I kind of like the glitter one, but I don't know. So anyway, there's a lot of things that you can do with them. Still in transitions, you can go over to effect options. You can say where you want it to come from. Each one of the transitions you can customize. You can add sound. So there's a lot of people that have added applause, all different kinds of things that you can add to the transition. And then you can have it do that sound through all the transitions once you have selected them. You can also do the duration. And what the duration is how long do you want that transition to happen? So when you do a transition, do you want it to be like just seconds? Do you want it to be a long transition? And you can do all of those things there as well. You can also say on the mouse click, which is what we have now, is we click the mouse and it goes to the next transition. And there's a lot of different things that you can do, and you can set it to after, before, all these different things that you can do with it. But my recommendation for doing transitions is to choose a transition that you think is not going to detract from your presentation, and keep the transition throughout. Unless you're really going into like a completely different subject, that seems to work the best. Excuse me. And so these are all the things that you can use to modify the transitions. And these are all the transitions that you have options to use. And again, you go up at the top to transitions. It shows all the transitions that you could possibly use. The effect options, if you want it to go a smooth transition, or you want it to black and then come back in. And then again, if you want sounds and so forth. Sounds can get a little disruptive after a while too, because some of these sounds are camera sound. It'll go click, applause, explosion, and all of that. So you really want to think about how ornate do you want to make your transitions, but they're there to use. Again, I like to use fade because it's a smooth transition. It kind of goes from slide to slide, but any of these transitions that you want to use are there for you to take a look at. This is the favorite one. This one comes up all the time with my students, and it came up with our last presentation. And the question was, I know how to use hanging indentation in Word. I have no problem using hanging indentation in Word. Why can I not use hanging indentation in PowerPoint? So we're going to take a look at doing that. And so to use hanging indentation for the first point of this, it is under the Home tab, and we're using this ruler here to go over to paragraph. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that we're in the text box where we want to do this. If it was up here, we could go up here, but we don't have enough for that hanging indentation. But so we want to go into this one, and we see right now we don't have hanging indentation. So what we want to do is put our pointer here at the beginning, right before the G in Giddings, and we want to drag it all the way down. The next thing we'll do is we'll go to paragraph. And in paragraph, and again, if you need to expand your screen while you're doing that, please do so. You want to take a look at indents and spacing. We're going to look at indentation. And it says before text, special, that says none, and by. So we always go into Word and we go, yay, this is going to work. I know it, know it, know it. Then you click on hanging. But then when you click on it, it doesn't work. It's like, what? Make this stop. So what you have to do, unless you can set a master up for this too. What you want to do is hanging indentation needs to be 0.5. And then fingers crossed, we have hanging indentation that says 0.5. And ta-da! That's the hanging indentation. It's because it's not set as one of the settings in PowerPoint, and that's why it doesn't always work. Another thing that you can do with hanging indentation is if you already have your hanging indentation and you have it in Word, most of the time you can copy that and paste it in, and it should work. And I say should work because we never know. I've been in technology for a long time, and I don't believe that technology only does what you tell it to do. Sometimes it has its own mind, and sometimes it's better stuff, and sometimes it doesn't do what we told it to do. Is there any questions about hanging indentation, or if you would like to see that demo again?
I do have a question about fonts. Do you want me to hold on to that?
Oh, fonts are fine. Let's talk fonts. Sure.
Okay. So the question is, how can you keep the fonts, like the font type and the size, consistent throughout the document?
Oh, great question. And are you talking a document meaning Word, or are you talking about a presentation?
I'm assuming a presentation in PowerPoint.
Okay. All right. And then if it's in Word, I can tell you that later too. So when you're talking about doing this, there is a master that you can take a look at and put everything in there exactly how you want it for doing your slides. You can get it all set up, and I will show you that in a little bit. But here's the other thing. I'm going to see if I can do this here. I'm going to click in this text box. With PowerPoint, PowerPoint sometimes wants to help us. And if I do this, watch, it won't work this time. But if I do this, sometimes what it will do is one of two or three things. It'll either make it really long, and then we can undo if we don't want that. Or if we expand it, sometimes it will make it longer. And it all depends on how your PowerPoint is set up. Some PowerPoint settings are set that if you were to make this smaller, then your font size will get smaller along with it. Others are set up, like this one, that no matter what you do, it's not going to let you make it any smaller. You'd have to go in and change your font, and then you can do something with that, and it would make it smaller for you. And then you can go in and work with this. But you have to look at your settings. Some settings have it that as you would expand it, it will expand it and will change the font size. Does that make sense?
It does. And then you said you have a section on creating the master slide.
Yes, well, not necessarily creating the master slide, but our next one is going to be viewing the table, and
Okay.
we're going to see what we have to take a look at that there. And then if we have enough time at the end, then I can actually go into the master slide, but it takes some time to go in and do that. But let me show you.
And then we do
Yes.
have someone requesting that you do the demo for the hanging indentation one more time.
You bet. Wasn't that fun? Yay. Okay. Because it's always exciting when you figure out, why isn't that darn thing working? Okay, so we're here, and what I have is just regular old type. It's word wrapping at the end, all the way around. And then what I have here is actually two different citations. You can barely tell that they're separate because there's no period and there's no tabbing or anything. So to do the hanging indentation, the first thing you do is go to the Home tab. Then click inside the text box where you want to make the change. Then you will go over here to paragraph, and then the down pointing arrow, you will click that one time. And then it's already saying hanging in it, shouldn't I? Didn't reset that. What it usually says in the settings in PowerPoint is 0 before text, none, and nothing over here where it says by. Now in Word, it usually says 0.5. Here it doesn't in PowerPoint. So what you do is you come in, and again, I'll do this again. We go to Home. We've already selected our text box. We go to Paragraph, click it one time, look at the indents and spacing, go down to Before Text. We're going to select 0.5, or it could be more if you wanted to do it, but this is APA 7. And then if it says none, you want to click on hanging. Now, if it says hanging, but you don't have this set to 0.5, it won't do it. So let's go ahead and click on OK. And it did it. Now, I didn't select both of them at this time, so I can go back in again and select this one and do the same thing. Home, and then Paragraph, and then everybody know where to go? 0.5, make sure it says hanging, and do OK. Ta-da! Now, this can be done myriad different ways, because let's say that, well, heck, you put in returns at the end of all these. And so these all have the return key or the enter key. Before you can do the hanging indent, you will have to delete those returns and let it word wrap. Otherwise, it won't do it. Does that make sense? It looks like we got it, so must have. Everybody else okay on this? And you will have a recording of this later too if you'd like to go over it again. Okay, so we're going now to using the tools on the view table, including the slide sorter. And as you can see, we do have the handout master here. I just don't want to run out of time. So Jenna, you can let us know how much we can do here. Mostly what I'm doing here is just kind of a show. So the first thing we need to do is to go to view. So we go back up to the very top tab here and we go to view. So if you're following along, you can see my picture here and you can even see this up here. Normal means what we're doing right now. We're normal looking at our normal layout. Outline view gives you an actual written outline so that you can take a look at it and click on it or whatever, and it'll show you where you're at. Slide sorter I like. And the reason why I like it is because if you're doing a presentation, and let's say you're doing that oral defense presentation and you get to a point where you have a slide and you go, you know what? I don't think that's in the right order. I need to move it around. And the nice part about doing slide sorter, excuse me, sorter, is that it's so easy to move stuff. So let's say instead of having my references here, I want to have it after questions. I can hold on that slide and I can move it anywhere I want. I could move it here. I could move my questions over here. Anywhere that you would like to have it, you can move these slides as many times as you would like. So we'll go back to our normal. And then next is notes pages. And you may or may not have used notes pages before, but to be able to use notes pages, you will select that. And what comes up is your presentation, but also a place to put your notes. And then there's even a way that you can do it where when you go into presenter mode, you only see the notes, but everybody else sees the presentation. And then there is the reading view. And that's just pretty much running the presentation. Oh, look, we've got transitions. And then there is the slide master and the notes master. When we go into the slide master, what you're going to see is a whole bunch of masters, some with information, some that have already been edited, and you can go up and do that at that point in time. Right here, the title style, you could do this, and you can go in there. You can change the background, you can change the font, you can change the style, meaning that if you wanted to, you could go here and make sure that this is a different font, and then you can make it larger and you can change colors to it and anything that you want. And then when you make a new slide, you save this master style and it will follow along with you. Does that make sense? And then you can come back and change it anytime you want. And then a lot of times people will say, well, I'm in slide master, help me. How do I get out of there? So we can just go back if we want to view and go to normal. And what I always like to select myself, and it's up to you whether it's in slide master or you just do it for your PowerPoint presentation. I always like to use a ruler because I like to see where I am if I want to center something and I want to maybe click on a text box and move it over. I know kind of where I'm centering it, and it also tells me up at the bar where I'm at. Okay, are there any questions on that? Okay, here we have a question that says, can the presenter only see the note slides when they are using one monitor? You can set it up where you will only see the notes, except when you're doing your oral defense, we're all using the same link, and you may end up sharing it all with everybody. So what you can do is, if you want to have two sessions, if you have a laptop and you have a computer with a bigger screen, you could be doing your presentation on the bigger screen on your laptop. You can put it up and see your notes screen. And if you have more questions on that, please let me know. Okay, so the next one that we're going to is, I think, because I already moved things around, so they kind of moved around a little bit. We're going to look at inserting and modifying shapes. And one thing I probably didn't want to do here is I'm going to click on the text box. I probably didn't really need to have bullets there, so I'm going to take that bullet out by clicking on bullets. But if you haven't used shapes before, you're looking at a shape right now that I have used, and this shape is an arrow. Now, an interesting thing about shapes is we can go to Insert, we can go to Shapes, and then you press the down pointing arrow, and there's all kinds of shapes. I use the arrow a lot, but you can use circles, you can do all kinds of stuff, or you could even use, maybe if you want to put in a little pointers, you can put in anything that you want. You can expand it. They become things that are movable, so you can move them anywhere you want. You can colorize them if you want to go in and edit. And you can also copy them. So if you really like the one that you have, you can copy it, and then you can paste it. And you get another one, and then you can move that around anywhere that you want. It's the same thing with this arrow that I have. I can extend the arrow if I want, move it around. And what else can we do with these? Of course, like everything else, yay, the undo button. I didn't like it there, so I have it back here. So it's really helpful. What it doesn't do, though, it does not always follow unless you have joined these all together. So let's say, for example, I want to move this over here. Then I would need to move my arrow again, unless I joined everything by using the control key, and then they would move together. So that's the same area where you would go in to insert a picture or anything else that you have. Is there any questions about this one? Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to timing your presentation. And just like everything else in Word, PowerPoint, Excel, other features that and applications that we use, there's always more than one way to do something. And it could be shortcuts, or it could be going to a different tab, or to a different window, or to a different ribbon. What I'm going to show you today is how to use this recording by going to slideshow. And I see we have another question, but I'm going to do this first, and then I'll go back to the shapes. So slideshow, yay, we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to slideshow, and you can see up here that I have gone to the slideshow tab. It's File, Home, Insert, Draw, Design, Transitions, Animations, and then Slideshow. And here we have a lot of different things that we can do. One thing you can do is rehearse timings. So you can start with a full screen of your PowerPoint slideshow, and you can watch your timings. And as you rehearse, it's going to record it. And then it's not only going to record the whole thing, but it does it by slide. And this is really helpful. I'm going to go ahead and click that. It's really helpful. See up here at the upper right, it's saying recording. I've spent 3 seconds on this one. And as I go to each slide, it starts the timing over again. It's going to show you the new timing on the slide, and then it shows you the complete aggregate timing as you go through. This is really helpful if you're doing, and I'm going to turn that off, if you're doing your oral defense presentation, because you have 25 minutes and you want to go in there and you would like to go ahead and time that and say, oh my gosh, I spent 5 minutes on this slide and only 2 seconds on that one. You can go in there and work on it and modify it. So that's the example of timing your presentation by going to slideshow and rehearse. You can also go to slideshow and press on record, and it will record it. But if you go to rehearse, it's going to do it slide by slide as well as an aggregate. How are you moving the shapes without changing the size? Well, because once I have a shape inserted and I have sized it, I can go up to the top or the bottom and click and hold and drag it. But if I'm like, but I want it bigger, I can go to the corners, make it bigger, and then click on again, and then go up to the top and move it anywhere I want. And then if you hate it, undo. Did that help? Okay, so next I am going to go to the best practices list. And this is just something for everybody doing PowerPoint presentations. I taught PowerPoint for about 25 years, Microsoft Office specialist certification, testing, and so forth. And so it's one really important thing. You probably already know this, but avoid reading your slide to the audience and avoid having tons and tons of stuff. This I have kind of a lot on here because you can look at this best practices list later on. But definitely you want to avoid reading your slide to the audience. Otherwise, they're going to be staring at your slide the whole time, and they're not going to be looking at you and paying attention. So have those notes, but just have those little succinct pieces in there for them. Decide on your font and font size and stay with it throughout, unless you're really trying to make an impact and do something else, because you want it to be more about you and your study and less about other things that they're going, oh, I wish I knew what font that was. She's changing it again 17 times in the slide or whatever. So if you could do that, that would be great. Choose fonts and font colors that are easy to read and are ADA compliant. And I do have a link down there so that you can take a look at it. But there's a lot of other ways that you can look at ADA compliancy. And to make sure that it is what you need it to be, there are software programs out there to make sure of it. But Excuse me. These are just some hints for you, and you can also look that up on the internet if you want. And also, what I tell all of my students to practice, but don't over practice. You can certainly over practice getting too ready. I used to practice with a friend of mine. She loved to practice. I wasn't big on practicing, but she would practice. And then if she memorized all of it and she forgot a word, then it became difficult to move through the presentation. So anyway, that's the information on that. So we can do questions now, and then we will move on to using the other hands-on oral dissertation template. And I also have some references for y'all too, if you'd like. So do we have any quick questions? And oh, good question here. Somebody wants to talk about animations. If we have time, I would love to. If not, contact me and we'll do animations. I love animations, but they can also be time consuming. Anybody ever did a PowerPoint presentation and get hooked up for about 4 or 5 hours going, oh, I don't like that animation. I'm gonna look here. Oh, I want to try another one and stuff. So now there's somebody that's asking, should all presentations be 25 minutes? Well, I'm in the School of Education, and the policy for the School of Education is we have an hour for our oral dissertation. The first 20 to 25 minutes are to be the presentation from the candidate. Then after that, it goes to the SME and the chair to ask questions. Then we send it for questions for our audience. And then we have our candidate log off. And then we discuss and deliberate, have the candidate back on, and either we approve it or have questions and so forth. And that's why there's a whole hour there. So check with your place that you're at, whether it's the School of Education, the School of Law, or whatever, to see what they have. And that's exactly right, Janice. Some of the schools may have different time requirements. So definitely check with your chair. And things change too. So, but great question. Okay, are there any other questions right now? Well, sometimes, you know what? They do run, oh, no.
No.
That's well, it's just we want to be able to have time for people to ask questions. And if you run over a little bit, that's okay. Most of my students are afraid that they won't have enough. I mean, that they're not going to have enough time. Oh, it's only going to be 10 minutes. It's always great. It's always great. And again, as Jen is saying, check with your chair. But that's my experience in the School of Education. Okay, so do we have any other questions before we move on to the template? And keep in mind, this template is specific to the School of Education qualitative. And so you could have picked another one up, or just remember, this is just an example. This is not saying this is exactly what yours is going to look like. Okay, we're kind of running a little bit short on time, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that. Now we're going to go and share the other presentation. Now, this is a presentation from the School of Education for a qualitative dissertation. So like I said, they're not all going to look the same. But things I want you to know, because students are always asking, is what do I need to do and how do I use it? If you remember earlier, we were talking about text boxes and moving them around. I'm clicking in this template, and this text box to me is a little bit long, so I can always go where this center button is, click, drag, make it a little bit smaller. I don't want to make it too small. Maybe I have a longer name or whatever, but you will just follow it along. The name and the reason why this is really cool is because they have set this up. It's already going to be in title mode for your dissertation. So you'll put the title, well, it should have been, never mind, title of the dissertation. But if it says it's supposed to be in title mode, make sure that you type it in title mode. And then they're going to change the font size, but the font is going to stay the same throughout. The only time you're going to see a font difference is probably on a logo. And this logo is already embedded in here. Then you'll put your chair's name here, Dr. Linda Collins, and the next one would be whoever your subject matter expert is, and your academic reader. And then you have the opportunity to come in here and modify all of these, because all it's doing is giving you information. You can also do notes in here. So you can go again where we were looking at view, and you can go to your slide master, but you can't do a lot of changing. Some of these have been set and they've been locked, but you can go in and take a look at how things are set up and how you might want to change it. So I'm going to go back in here to normal, and let's say you're like PowerPoint crazy like I am. I'd like to make sure my boxes are set neatly and stuff, and you can do that. These can be moved by clicking and moving them down. They can be enlarged by continuing to type. If you decide that you want to use bullets instead of these lines, you can do that. Does anybody remember how to do that? We would highlight all of this, right? Or if we'd only wanted it for these, you would highlight it, and then you would go to home and bullets, and you can get it to default to whatever bullet that you want. Okay, and then here you want to pay attention to what they're telling you to do. Verbatim from manuscript, cited as necessary. So problem and purpose statements, you want to take the essence of those and put them in there. And I'm not going to teach as being a chair because I'm not doing it that way today, but they just mean to put it in exactly right. And then this is all set up here too, which is really cool. You just start typing and you can do your research questions. And then we'll go to the next one. And this is where you'll put in either your theoretical or conceptual framework, and making sure that you stay with the same fonts. And you can click and you can highlight and then type in whatever you want and do any of your notes that you'd like to do. And then review of the literature, same thing. This is nice. You can make it smaller if you're not going to do that much. And then you can copy and paste. If you needed to go to more than one page, you can always go to new slide and you can select copy slide. And then here's where you put your research methodology and design. I like showing this because now it's not as like a mystery and stuff, but it's pretty simple to do. Population and sample. You're going to put that information in there, following the guidelines from your chair, following the guidelines from the school that you're in. Again, this can look different depending on what school you're in, but I just wanted to show this to you so you could kind of see what it looked like. And you will put this in. And if you only have materials, you only have instrumentation, you just kind of modify it however you'd like to, and so on and so forth. And here, there's a typo. If you find a typo, you can always fix your typo. And that's pretty much what this looks like. So now you've seen this, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And then we'll go back and ask if there are any additional questions.
We do.
Yes.
Yeah, we do have one about the destination or the source formatting. I think you showed early on in the presentation when you copy paste from Word into the PowerPoint template. How do you get the font not to change?
I love that question.
Oh no, looks like we lost her. Well, give me just 1 second. We're going to see if she can reconnect. Hopefully she doesn't have any storms in her area. And if she does not come back online, I'm going to go ahead and pull out my PowerPoint real quick. Ooh. Oh, here she comes.
I got kicked out and it told me, thank you for joining. Thank you for being in the meeting. Would you please take a short survey?
Oh.
I'm like, what? Anyway, guys, sorry about that. So here we are back here. We're sharing again. And so the question was, how do you keep the format? So we're going to go back in and see if I still have that paste in there. And you can see what I've done here to be able to do this is I'm right clicking, but you can go up here and do a paste as well. I'm right clicking, and here's where it says paste. Use destination theme, and the next one says picture. Now, when I did this, and hopefully they won't kick me out again, I'm going to go back in, and I will quickly copy my table without even stopping my share. I'm going to go back here, and I've copied that table again. So I'll get rid of this table. I'm going to right click, and now look, it shows me all kinds of options that I have. It says use destination styles. That means make it look like the stuff that's already in PowerPoint. The next one is keep source formatting. It's like make it look like it looked in Excel or Word from another document. And then there's to embed it, make it as a picture, and keep text only. To keep it the same, you go keep source formatting. And that's what it will do. Now, and then you got to move it to where you want it. If I do the first one, it puts it in, and see how it's gray and it has like the grid lines and everything. It's picking that directly up from Excel. So again, just as an overview, when you've copied it from Excel or from Word or from another PowerPoint presentation, if you copy it from that source and you're ready to paste it and you want to keep the formatting from that source, you go to keep source formatting, and then it comes in and it will be exactly like it was. Did that help? Are there any other questions?
I am not seeing any.
All right. Well, and I didn't get kicked out again. That's pretty good. Well, again, I want to thank you all for coming today. That was really a fun session for me, and I'm glad to see you. The last thing that I will do, though, is let me go ahead and go over here, and I'm going to insert a text box because I did not do that. And my contact is lcollins@nu.edu. And thank you again. If there's no other questions, enjoy the rest of your day and have fun with PowerPoint.